this edition of Southern Newsweek, a knife attacker was sentenced in Dunedin High Court and the case details make for disturbing reading. Multinationals using loopholes in tax language to escape their taxable duty will find it harder to fleece New Zealand soon. And the life and times of Tanya Dalton are celebrated all across New Zealand, including in Otago, when hundreds turned out to pay their respects. Kia ora, I'm Holly Buchanan. A man accused of stabbing his ex-wife's best friend 14 times in an attack at her home was sentenced in the Dunedin High Court recently. Diane Leslie John Owens pleaded guilty to attempted murder in an attack Justice Rachel Dunningham called frenzied, ongoing and involved.
As she fought back tears, a victim confronted 44-year-old Darren Leslie John Owens in Dunedin High Court today. She was subjected to a prolonged attack in February last year by Owens, who she said left her unable to live a normal life or even wear dresses that displayed her scars, a constant reminder of her ordeal. The victim stood shaking, supported by her lawyer, as she gave testimony of suffering post-traumatic stress disorder since the day of the attack. The judge passed a sentence of 10 years with a minimum period of 5 years non-parole. Crown Prosecutor Richard Smith said Owens entered an address from which he had been trespassed after making a phone call to ex-wife Leanne Donaldson from outside the Cutton Street house. During the attack, the woman's lung was punctured, the muscles beside her spine were penetrated, and her stomach lining was brought through her skin. Owens kept his head down throughout Justice Dunningham's sentencing, where it was revealed after the attack he told a friend he had finished off the victim. The defence said Owens, who had more than 20 prior convictions, was inebriated at the time of the attack and remembered little. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
Some of New Zealand and Australia's cricket A-listers have been in Queenstown this week for the New Zealand Golf Open. Brendan McCullum, Stephen Fleming, Shane Warne and Ricky Ponting are some of the cricket stars turning their attention to golf. Mina Amzo caught up with the charismatic quartet on the practice tee.
A chilly southwesterly breeze greeted the cricket pros this morning as they met up at the Millbrook Resort for a few practice swings ahead of this week's New Zealand Golf Open. Former top New Zealand cricket captain and batsman Brendan McCullum is looking forward to the tournament.
I mean, we're all obviously incredible golf enthusiasts as well, and can't wait to get out there. And I think the practice rounds are also a way to try and hopefully improve some sort of swing leading into the tournament.
Confident retired Australian spinner Shane Warne admitted to being a little bit nervous ahead of his appearance.
Golf's pretty ordinary.
Okay.
I'm in fine form off the field. I think I'm in career best form off the field at the moment.
Yeah, good to know.
And I'm hoping if I continue on that vein over the next couple of days, by the time Thursday comes, I could be in tremendous form.
English batting and bowling legend Sir Ian Botham agreed, but he is ready for the challenge.
Oh, I was very confident. Confident part's easy. When you start holding that stick in your hand, that's when it gets a bit tricky.
When asked who he would watch out for, the former successful New Zealand cricket captain Stephen Fleming said,
Again, Shane Warne. He could have a good day, so he's one to watch out for. But I think with the format that we play, so we're playing with a professional, it's really about competing with yourself, and that's the hardest battle.
And on his role model,
Ryan Fox, from a professional point of view, is a guy that I admire a lot.
but if Fleming had to pick one cricketer to play golf with,
I have to say Warne again. He's got some pretty good stories, so he's always entertaining on and off. Ponting is by far the best golfer.
it's the fourth time Australian cricket legend Ricky Ponting has attended.
You're in total control of what you're doing, but when you're playing the game, it's a little bit foreign to us because it's not, our chosen sport. You're just a little bit out of your comfort zone.
The cricket A-listers will compete at the Open starting at Millbrook on Thursday. Mina Amso, The South Today.
The Revenue Minister was recently in Queenstown speaking to international tax officials to highlight a proposal law that cracks down on multinational companies avoiding tax. Judith Collins released 3 documents for consultation focused on New Zealand's response to base erosion and profit shifting. 2 of the tools are used by offshore companies to avoid paying tax in this country. Mina Amso was there.
Revenues Minister Judith Collins did not want to go down the road of naming which companies were not paying their fair share of tax, but was adamant to crack down on those manipulating loopholes. Collins released 3 consultation documents that may turn into law, which propose to close down loopholes and tighten rules around those offshore companies paying tax. Collins says the proposal is strong and measured and are in accordance with the OECD's recommendations.
Bring us into line with similar jurisdictions.
But will multinationals still be able to find those loopholes?
We'll wait and see, but I think that once the proposals are put into law, that'll be much more difficult.
Collins says she will see how the tax law will pan out, but may change along the way to make sure multinationals can't find new ways around the law.
We have a balancing act here because we are a country that does require capital to come in from overseas and to build our businesses and keep people employed.
She explains offshore companies avoiding tax tend to direct their head office costs to a New Zealand company if they have an office in New Zealand.
And that means that the profits that they make in New Zealand are significantly reduced for tax purposes, and the real profit is being shifted offshore by way of the sort of manipulation.
Earlier reports claimed New Zealand was missing out on a $10 billion worth of tax, which Collins dismisses, saying it was only $200 to $300 million.
Corporate tax or company tax in New Zealand is currently around about $10 billion. So on the guesstimates of $10 billion, that would mean that we're only getting half of what we should for all corporates, and that's just not true.
Ministers will consider final proposals arising from the documents later in the year. Mina Amso, The South Today.
A smaller than average cruise ship came and went from Dunedin waters yesterday after making a flying visit to Port Chalmers. The Azamara journey, called the Boutique Hotel of the Seas, has set a course to see some of the spots around New Zealand and Australia that larger vessels sometimes miss.
It's floating proof that size doesn't always matter, although a room aboard the Azamara journey will set you back about as much as a night at the Hilton in Auckland. I'm Rosella Bone. I'm here lined up, ready to board boutique ship Azamara Journey. It's docked here in Dunedin for its first ever visit to New Zealand. Everything's smaller in here, including the lifts. While this ship is all about luxury for its 690 passengers, it's catering to a specific clientele who have grown tired of the excess of larger cruises and are looking for something a little more exclusive. Suites have their own butler, and staff aboard are well qualified to make sure your every whim is catered for. Their chef has cooked for the royal family and Hollywood royalty, everyone from Queen Elizabeth to Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
It was an amazing experience because apart cooking, you need to go through screenings. And it's not just screening of yourself as an individual, but your family and the family that you are with at the time. So yeah, a lot of security involved. And we're talking about 20 years, almost 20 years ago.
Do you have a big family? Yeah. Does that who you cook for first, your first audience?
Well, my family, I'm not allowed to cook at home still. With my mother, there's no way.
This waiter has worked with the company for more than 10 years.
Well, it's great. It's a good experience to travel. Knowing that I'm come so far, all the way in Jamaica, and yes, it's a wonderful experience that I'm working on the ship all over the US. We've been all through Europe, all through the Caribbean, all over. We've been through Antarctica.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been there.
Where was your was that your favourite experience so far?
Well, it was a very nice experience. Knowing that Jamaica, we don't have any ice, it's just warm all through the year.
And if you get tired of all that food and hospitality, you can always retire to the gym or one of the ship's many decks or pools. While it's called boutique, there's no shortage of things to see, do or buy aboard. The captain, a long way from home in Norway, says the size of the ship made sailing on the journey a unique experience for tourists, but he still enjoyed the simple pleasures back on land.
Our concept is to focus more on the destinations and spending more time in port. And we do a lot of overnights in port, giving the guest experience of seeing the ports at night, as many of the ports don't come alive until the evening.
When you're on the ship, what is the first thing you want to eat when you get on to terra firma?
Or when I get home, you mean?
When you get home, like what is...
Peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Sadly, my time on the Azamara had to come to an end. But not before I retired to the drawing room for a cup of tea and a lie down. All that luxury was hard work. I could get used to this. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
Hundreds gathered at ILT Stadium this week to mourn the late netball great and sport commentator Tanya Dalton. After having an internal carotid artery aneurysm on February 26th, Ms Dalton died on the 1st of March. The funeral was held in Auckland, but the service was live streamed so the Southland community could participate.
There were bursts of laughter and tears for Tanya Dalton at the ILT Stadium this afternoon. The 45-year-old netballer and sports commentator died on the 1st of March, 3 days after suffering an aneurysm while playing touch rugby. While her funeral was held at QBE Stadium in Auckland's North Shore, it was preceded by the Invercargill Memorial Service, where she was remembered as one of the stars of the Southern netball teams. Ex-teammate Wendy Frew recalled a fun person.
Teabag was the life of every party. Even if it didn't start as a party, she definitely made sure it ended as one. She should have had the chance to do this in a retirement village 40 years from now. Her smile and energy lit up the room. No matter where you meet Teabag, everyone got the same person. She was genuine and real.
It was an emotional ceremony, with some of the speakers struggling to get the words out at times.
They often say God only picks the roses, and he has sure selected a beautiful one in Teabag. She lived her life to the absolute max. Sorry. If there's anything to be learned from this, it's to value the time we have here with those we love, cherish every moment and remember to laugh together. Go well, Teabag. The good times never seem so good.
Frew says her heart goes out to the loved ones Tanya left behind, husband Dwayne and children Taylor, Charlie and Matthew. Janet Copeland, the Southern Steel's ex-chairwoman, spoke on Tanya's many netballing successes.
Tanya's infectious smile, her warmth and her candid honesty meant that she had adoring fans wherever she went. Tanya always took the time to stop and talk, sign an autograph, encourage a star-struck young aspiring netballer, thank a doting fan, or just say hello. Tanya was personable, friendly, and always authentic.
Tanya was called a true blue adopted Southlander. A live stream of her funeral service was played following the Southland Memorial. Ruby Spink, The South Today.
Coming up on Southern Newsweek, an antiques dealer says antiques are not a thing of the past. And Mina Amso interviews a golfing prodigy, an 8-year-old who's about to jet his way into an American tournament. Welcome back. An antique dealer says antique collection is not a thing of the past. Sandy Woodward of Tauranga with 10 other antiques dealers from around the country are in Arrowtown this week for the 5th annual Antiques Fair. Mina Amso reports.
1950s 22-carat gold Bohemian water set nicely displayed in a corner at the Athenaeum Hall, one of thousands of items on display at the Arrowtown's annual Antiques Fair. Fair organiser and antiques dealer Sandy Woodward says selling and buying antiques is a challenge, but it's not a thing of the past.
It's also a thing of the future. You know, a lot of the items here are over 50 years, over 100 years and over 150 years old, and they're still good, still being used, still being enjoyed.
This piece is one of the most expensive items found at the fair. Hello, Mina Amso in Arrowtown, where the Antiques Fair has begun today, and I'm here with Jim, who is holding a Madonna piece made of ivory.
Well, it's valued at about $4,000. It's very simply carved, and very nice large piece, which are very hard to find in these days. Like ivory is illegal now to have modern ivory, but these older pieces are very much sought after.
Marilyn Strang is a bit of a collector herself and has travelled from Invercargill to Arrowtown to attend the fair. She says it's hard to get collectible items in Invercargill.
Places have closed down, our shops have closed down. We've got one in Invercargill and I think there's one in Dunedin.
Woodward says the decline in antiques shops in Southland is because it's hard to find good quality antiques, and so it's hard to open up a shop and sell them.
Antique dealers do tend to be older people, and it's a different world nowadays.
The fair supports Southland Hospice and will run until Monday next week. Mina Amso, The South Today.
Scientific breakthroughs in Parkinson's disease, gastric cancer and melanoma are happening right here in Dunedin. The University of Otago is using robotic technology to determine molecular structure through crystallography studies and is performing biochemical experiments to better understand proteins.
Robots are taking over the University of Otago's Biochemistry department, and they might just save your life. I'm Roselle LeBone here for the big reveal with Johannes Wyman, a PhD student at the University of Otago. He's about to lift the lid on protein crystals cultivated right here at the Biochemistry lab.
So I'm just going to open up the storage unit where all the protein crystals are contained and frozen for long-term storage.
A team of researchers, led by Otago Department of Biochemistry's Dr. Peter Mace, studied a protein called apoptosis signal regulating kinase 1, or ASK1.
We use the crystallization robot because it can set up drops far smaller than we can set up by hand, and it can do it far quicker. So when you're setting up a really tiny drop, if you're doing it by hand, it is evaporated by the time you finish. So having the robot do it really quickly over 2 minutes, those drops are much better drops and the experiment is performed much more effectively.
This protein plays a large part in a range of diseases. The team have been studying its behaviour and have found kinases act as a signalling protein, causing a cell to divide, move, die, or have any number of other responses. This means cell behaviour can be controlled to trigger specific responses in the body to threats or damage.
What our research is really doing is looking at the fundamental biochemistry of how cells signal and how they operate at a molecular level. So we try and make 3D maps of these signalling proteins.
Work is also being completed in the lab with kinases to develop better drugs for use in treatment.
It's not very far in terms of 5 years, 10 years. Like we could see something coming out of it, and I'm sure a lot of pharmaceutical companies would be interested in.
The study is a collaboration between researchers and scientists at the university, the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute in Melbourne, and the Australian synchrotron. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
A Queenstown golfer will compete in a prestigious American golf competition in Pinehurst, North Carolina in August. Josh Harris is 8 years old and is one of 1,500 boys and girls from around the world qualified to compete in the Under-12s World Golf Championships. Here's Mina Amso with a potential future world champion.
Josh Harris has been playing golf for 5 years. Now at age 8, he's among the top 2 for his age in New Zealand. Snapping up awards and trophies at home turf.
I came second in 3 of them and first in 4 of them. On the last round, I had a playoff and I won the playoff, so I won the tour that was in Auckland.
Josh believes he's now ready to swing by foreign soil and compete at the world's most prestigious golf tournament.
Trophy, and you're ranked number 1 in the world if you win the whole thing.
Josh, how do you feel about that?
I'm very excited. I'd love to be there now if it was on.
Get your stuff out.
Josh trains at the Frankton and Hills golf courses alongside his professional golf coach, Allan McKay.
He's a good coach and he fixed my grip up a bit.
And what can you say, the one thing that you really enjoy about training with Allan?
He says He's got to chuck me in like this stream, but one day he says. But I'm not sure that will happen.
But McKay says Josh is a natural.
He already had a golf swing.
Coach McKay says Josh has the desire to play golf and is willing to compete.
He hits the ball well, and he's like most kids, he's a sponge, so he soaks up information and wants to get better.
Josh's mum Anne is proud and happy that Josh gets to compete on such high level.
Well, I think it's exciting for him to be able to do it, and to be so excited about it himself and so focused is amazing.
And Josh will have his whole family along for the ride on the golf course and, of course, for a few events on the side.
We're going to Disneyland and Legoland apparently, so it's going to be a big family trip for us.
Josh and his family head to North Carolina for the competition in August. Mina Amso, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, you'd be excused for thinking that farming is a fit and active lifestyle. We have some shocking news for you. And Southland's Regional Council wants to clear up any confusion you may have about the swimmability of your rivers. Welcome back. Some Southland farmers are travelling to Invercargill so they can work out. This follows claims by Exercise New Zealand that it's harder for farmers to stay in prime condition with the rise of agritech. And one Invercargill gym is taking advantage of the trend.
Working out. Some do it for health reasons, fun, or even to keep up the physical strength to do their jobs. Hi, I'm Ruby Spink in Invercargill, outside Riding to Health, one of the gyms around the country which is noticing an increased number of farmers joining fitness facilities in order to keep in prime condition. Managing Director Melanie Riding says some of the farmers are travelling from at least an hour away.
Several farmers have come in from as far as, I suppose, 100 kilometres away in all sorts of directions. And I think it's because we have a very personalised approach to fitness. So we tailor programs to meet people's individual needs.
Exercise New Zealand links a rise in agritech to a rise in farmers taking part in personalised fitness programs. They say it's getting harder for farmers to stay in shape. Farmer's wife Sheila Smith travelled nearly an hour from her home to work out at Riding to Health. She says working on a farm can be very physical.
You do yomp around the hills a bit, so there is that sort of walk-in fitness. And if you're feeding dairy calves, anyone will know that you don't need to do weights, okay, because the buckets are bloody heavy. As it happens, I'm a sheep farmer's wife, so we don't have that. And it's also nice to come into town and have that social aspect of joining the gym. It motivates you.
Smith's part of a group of 10 farmers' wives that drive all the way from Tokanui to Invercargill twice a week for training sessions. But Melanie Riding says she has clients from even further afield. One of her success stories is a North Rural Southland farmer who wanted to get into mountain biking.
I made him climb on a bike, and I taught him how to use proper cleats and had him cycling up and down the hills of his farm and things like that. He doesn't need to come to us anymore because he's now mastered the art of mountain biking and went away to Wanaka and did a mountain biking race just before Christmas.
She says being flexible and adapting for her clients has helped her business cater to this trend. I'm Ruby Spink for The South Today.
And finally, the health of our nation's rivers and lakes is a controversial subject. This follows the Ministry for the Environment releasing information on the swimmability of our fresh waterways. And Southland's Regional Council's hoping to clear up the confusion around the subject.
Swimmable versus wadable. Certainly we want our rivers to be safe and clean, but how do we judge if they are? And what is swimmability?
There's numerous definitions around this. The one the Ministry's chosen is looking at the microbiological quality of the river and the whether the lakes have toxic algae in them.
The river or lake is given a rating of red, orange, yellow, green or blue to indicate a potential higher or lower risk for swimmers. Mr Civic Jones says the Regional Council is working to provide the most accurate information to the public.
It's probably confusing to the public because there's now 3 different ways in which the data has been presented. The MFE website now identifies water quality on an annual basis, whereas for swimmability, regional councils report at its popular swimming sites on a weekly basis which is more direct measurement of what's actually happening.
The information from these tests is uploaded to the Environment Southland website. Another group concerned with the water quality is Fish and Game. Southland manager Zane says anglers can be wary of fresh waterways because they're in and around them and likely eating the fish they catch. But they don't have more to worry about than swimmers.
Levels that are safe for swimming are certainly safe for contact recreation for anglers, because that's sort of a secondary contact. They're not in the water as much as someone who's immersing themselves swimming, obviously. So generally, if it's safe for swimming, it's certainly going to be safe for angling as well.
Graham Civic-Jones says people need to be responsible when using rivers and check the quality and clarity before swimming. I'm Ruby Spink for the South Today.
And that's all for this edition of Southern Newsweek. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Holly Buchanan. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.